When I first laid eyes on the Victorian house at the edge of the woods, I felt a strange pull. It wasn't just the sweeping views of the Rockies or the sprawling backyard, it was something else. The realtor's voice was a hum in the background as I stood on the porch with Lily, my 6-year-old daughter. "This place has character," I said, smiling down at her. She nodded, clutching her favorite stuffed bear, Mr. Buttons. "This is home now," I told her, hoping to believe it myself. We moved in within a week, and at first, it was everything I hoped for. The quiet town of Fraser had a comforting stillness, and Lily seemed happier. But the house came with quirks, creaks in the night, unexplained cold spots, and a basement that seemed perpetually damp. One evening, while sorting through the cluttered basement, I noticed something unusual. There was a faint draft coming from the far wall. Intrigued, I knocked on the wall and heard a hollow echo. After peeling away the decaying wallpaper, I found a small, hidden door. I hesitated, but curiosity won. With some effort, I pried it open, revealing a narrow, sloping tunnel carved into the earth. The air inside was cold and stale, and it smelled faintly of rust. "Daddy, what's that?" Lily's voice startled me. She had crept down the stairs, her wide eyes fixed on the dark opening. "Just a tunnel, sweetheart," I said. "It's probably nothing. Go back upstairs." She nodded reluctantly and scampered off, but I couldn't resist the urge to explore. Grabbing a flashlight, I stepped inside. The tunnel was claustrophobic, the dirt walls pressing in on either side. After about 10 feet, it opened into a small chamber. At the center stood a stone altar, its surface covered in strange carvings and dark stains. Surrounding it were symbols etched into the dirt, their looping shapes unnervingly intricate. On the altar sat a rusted metal box. I opened it cautiously and found a leather-bound journal inside. The entries were written in a jagged scrawl, detailing rituals, sacrifices, and ominous warnings. One line stood out: "The tunnel must remain sealed. If opened, it will awaken." A chill ran down my spine. I left the chamber quickly, but as I shut the tunnel door, I thought I heard a faint whisper stay. That night, I dreamt of the tunnel. In the dream, the walls pulsed like living flesh, and a woman's voice echoed around me. "Daniel," it called softly. "Help me. I'm so alone." I woke with a start, my heart pounding. Lily stood at the foot of my bed, her eyes wide and unblinking. "Lily, what's wrong?" I asked, sitting up. "She's sad, Daddy," she whispered. "Who's sad?" "The lady," she said matter-of-factly. "She's lonely down there. She wants to play." A cold dread washed over me. "What lady?" "The one in the tunnel," Lily replied before turning and walking back to her room. The next day, I couldn't shake the unease. While Lily was at school, I returned to the basement to inspect the tunnel. I'd left the door shut, but now it was ajar. A faint metallic smell wafted out. I sealed it with plywood and nails, determined to keep whatever was inside from getting out. But that night, strange things began happening. The whispers started again, soft and rhythmic, coming from the basement. The lights flickered, and the temperature in the house dropped. Lily woke up screaming at 2 a.m., claiming a shadow had stood at the foot of her bed. I stayed up with her, my baseball bat by my side, listening to the faint sound of footsteps below us. The next morning, I sought answers. I visited Fraser's Historical Society, where an elderly woman named Margaret reluctantly shared the house's history. "It belonged to the Kessler family in the late 1800s, she said. "They were odd, obsessed with rituals and the occult. They disappeared one winter, and no one knows what happened to them. Some say they summoned something they couldn't control." Back at the house, I found the tunnel door wide open again. This time, the plywood I'd nailed over it was shattered, pieces scattered across the basement floor. And then I saw her. She stood just inside the tunnel, her long black hair obscuring her face. Her body was unnaturally thin, her limbs too long. When she moved, it was jerky, like a puppet on strings. "Why did you open my door?" she whispered, her voice echoing unnaturally. I stumbled backward, tripping over a box. She stepped closer, and for a brief moment, I saw her face, hollow eyes, and a mouth full of jagged teeth. "You shouldn't have let me out," she hissed. I scrambled upstairs, grabbing Lily and locking us in her room. Desperate for help, I contacted a local historian, Mr. Grayson. When I showed him the journal and described what I'd seen, his face turned ashen. "You've awakened the dweller," he said. "It's not a ghost, it's something much older. It feeds on fear and grows stronger with each victim. How do I stop it? I demanded. There's only one way, he said grimly. You must force it back into the tunnel and seal it. But it will fight you. It doesn't want to go back. That night I prepared a trap. Following a hint from the journal, I set up mirrors around the basement. The dweller, it said, could not resist its own reflection. When it appeared, it was more monstrous than ever, its body twisted and contorted, and its voice filled the room like a storm. Using the mirrors, I forced it back into the tunnel. Its screams were deafening, and the air grew thick with the stench of decay. Finally, it was gone. I sealed the tunnel with bricks and cement, praying it would hold. But as I tucked Lily into bed that night, she smiled at me too wide, too unnatural. You forgot something, she said in a voice that wasn't hers. My blood ran cold. What did I forget? She giggled, her eyes turning black. You didn't let me out, I let you in. The realization struck me like a thunderclap. Whatever I had forced into the tunnel wasn't the only thing that had been awakened. Something far worse was still here with us, and it had taken my daughter. Now, as I sit here, I can hear Lily, or what used to be Lily, laughing softly from the hallway. I don't think I can stop it,